Wisconsin International Radio, I'm Miles Kristen. Here I am today with Larry Sharpe, New York gubernatorial candidate. So tell me, why are you running for governor?
Get that question all the time. New York State's broken. It's got to be fixed. Now's the time to run. Our current governor is very unpopular. He's been governor now for 7 years, and we lose about 100,000 New Yorkers out of our state every single year. They're fleeing our state, voting with their feet. Republican Party in my state is broken. They're very viable locally, but when it comes across state, they haven't won, the last 15, 16 elections. Anything statewide, Republicans can't win. They don't win Senate. They don't win governor. They don't win anything that's statewide. They can't win. The state's simply too blue. So it's a blue state with unhappy blue voters. Perfect timing for me.
So I saw a video of you, I believe it's on your YouTube channel, of you in a gubernatorial debate.
Mm-hmm.
These were, there were two other candidates?
Two other candidates, Joe Holland, who is a Republican candidate,
okay,
and Joel Giambra, who is a former Republican. He used to be the executive of Erie County, which is similar to like a mayor or something like that for a county in New York. He was an executive in Erie County, and he's trying to get the Reform Party line.
I want to ask a real serious question now. The serious question is, I need by show of hands, how many people in this room are against universal health care? And I would say you are all wrong. You are not against universal health care. You know what you're actually against? You're against the mandate. And it's important that we as libertarians understand that nuance. You aren't against everyone having health care, are you? No. Of course not. What you're against is the government mandating it, forcing it, making them control it. Yes. If there was some way that we could magically all have health care, you wouldn't be against that, you wouldn't care. You take it, fine, good, it's magic, no worries. All good, we love magic, that'd be awesome. Why do I say that? Because it really does matter. We aren't against any specific idea or outcome. What we are against is the way to get to that outcome, if that outcome is because of or through or via force, specifically government.
If you're a libertarian, you probably saw me in May of 2016 when I ran for the VP position. If not, that's where I began becoming active in the party, meaning running as a candidate. Prior to that, I was a guy who would just write checks to candidates, I would write checks to parties. The party would ask for money, I'd write checks to the party for money. That was what I would do. But besides that, I really wasn't that active. I became active when I saw it was Hillary and Trump. And that's when I knew I had a chance, that I could make some motion, I could make something happen. I lost to Bill Weld in 2016 by 32 votes, not that I'm counting. And then at that point, I realized that we needed to make the party better. And I remember I was in South Carolina on business, doing something with my clients. And I stopped by the local LP guys and I said, hey, why don't we grab some dinner or something? They said, okay. We sat down, we started talking, like at Applebee's or TGI Fridays, something like that. And at one point, one of the guys looks at me and just stares at me. And I said, what? He said, Larry, why are you here? And at this point, if you remember the time, this was the summer of 2016, we were talking about things like, will Gary Johnson get in the debates and things like that. That was our conversation at that point. And I said, well, because we still have a campaign we have to do. We're still busy. Let's keep going. He said, nobody does that. And when he said that, I realized we have a cultural issue in the party. And that is we have to make our party like a real party. We have to support each other and raise money for each other and help each other out and do things like that. So I thought, I'm going to go do that. So that's what got me more active in the party. What got me active in politics is understanding that the vast majority of people in politics aren't that good in the first place. Anybody can run. So why can't I?
Because when we're out there talking to people, as these candidates, and you're having conversations, and people say, but you want everyone to die. No, I don't. Well, you want no one to have health care. No, I don't. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is there a better way to achieve the same outcome? What you'll find when you're out there campaigning is in many cases, when you're talking to someone, they actually agree with the same outcome. They want the same thing you want, a better society, happier people, safer people, more money, more opportunity. Most people would agree with all of those outcomes. So why are we fighting? We're fighting because we are focusing on the method. But why would we do that? Here's the reason why. If you understand you're only against the mandate and not the outcome, it means that anyone can be a libertarian. If you're a liberal or a conservative, Doesn't matter. You can be libertarian as long as you don't want to enforce your will upon others.
Right.
You can be as liberal as you want to be, as long as you just want to be liberal on your own. You can be as conservative as you want to be, as long as you be conservative on your own. As long as everyone around you is voluntary, it's fine. I'll give you a good example. You know, people ask this question all the time. Hey, Larry, if libertarianism works so well, how come there's libertarian societies? There are. I'll give you one right now. The Amish.
There you go.
They're a voluntary society, aren't they? They're a voluntary society. They do exist. And in the libertarian world, the Amish can exist. But in the totalitarian world, they cannot. But in the libertarian world, they can. The kibbutz in Israel, they can exist, right? Is it called kibbutz, is that right? Did I say it right? Yes, right? They're basically communes. But they're voluntary. You can go there because you think it's the right answer, and you can leave if you want to. No one forces you. It's voluntary. That is what we are about, and I want you as your companion to realize that you can. Someone can be liberal, someone can be conservative, and they can still be libertarian. It's okay. But the old parties don't believe that.
So one of your videos, we were just talking about the video where you're walking around in Queens, and you see the mom and pop shops can't make it, but the franchise after franchise. Is it fair to say the laws have been there to help the crony capitalists?
No, not to help the crony capitalists. The laws are there for big business, right? The regulations come in. The answer to regulation is the franchise. That's the answer. When you buy a franchise, you basically outsource all the red tape. That's what you do, right? Because the franchise is a large organization that has all the lawyers, all the HR specialists, all the things that can deal with all the regulation in that individual state that a small business owner can't do. So that's why you buy a franchise. Don't get me wrong. I like franchises, and there's absolutely a place for franchises in our economy. And there are great ways for many people to become entrepreneurs. I love the even idea of franchise. I love it. People don't want to focus on the marketing aspects, who just want to do the business of the franchise. It's awesome. I love big business. Also good. Love it. But I also love mom and pop too. Our economy has to be able to support all three, and in a regular, healthy economy, it can. But once you start pouring regulation, the small person can't survive. So it becomes, by default, franchises.
What you will hear them say all the time is this: elections have consequences. Heard that before, haven't you? What that means is, now I get to enforce my will upon you. Ha ha ha. And guess when I lose, you'll enforce your will upon me. And I'll be angry, but I accept it because I'm going to win afterwards, and I'm going to enforce my will upon you. And that's what the old parties want. They are about enforcing their will upon everyone, whether you want to or not. In their minds, government is about enforcing the will of the majority. But in our minds, government, if it is to exist at all, is about protecting the rights of the individual.
Right.
And in many cases, it is actually against the will of the majority. In many cases, against the will of the majority.
Yes.
And I bring that up because our country right now is moving closer and closer towards more and more, I voted, therefore it's okay.
The gun laws of New York, there are stricter gun laws in New York City than other parts of the country, correct?
Yes, even across New York State.
Yeah.
Yes. The gun laws in New York City haven't really affected New York City much at all. New York City is very close to a communist state already, right? So it's like putting sugar on ice cream. It's already sweet. It doesn't really do much. You can't tell the difference, right? I mean, it's already sweet. So gun laws in New York City, it's already bad. All gun laws in New York City do is make sure that more criminals do one of two things. Don't report guns, so there's more ghost guns, or it puts people who are afraid and try to defend themselves in jail longer because they defend themselves with a gun. So it puts people in jail longer is, I guess, one thing it does. If that's a benefit, I don't see that as a benefit. I see that as simply costing the taxpayer more money. So what it does is, if you commit a crime, you go to jail for X years, whatever that is. If you had a gun, you go to jail for another X years. So the crime you did didn't change. You chose a certain tool, and therefore the taxpayer pays 5 more years of your room and board, and ensures you have no chance of getting back into society at all. So you're going to go back again, and we're going to pay for more. So if the gun laws had done anything, it's just made less people happy and put more people in jail and made us pay more. Upstate's worse though, because upstate is very different than New York City. Upstate, Western New York, Central New York, it's much more of more people have guns, more of a gun culture, more hunters, more people just want their freedom. That's why you don't live in a big city, right? That's why you do that. I get it. So we have a thing in New York State called the SAFE Act. The SAFE Act came out, I think it's 2013, 14, I think 13 came out. And when the SAFE Act came out, it basically said, it didn't make us any safer. SAFE is amazing. I mean, they're using the acronym SAFE is brilliant because it sounds like it makes us safe. I love that, but it's a marketing tool. In reality, what it did was it made a bunch of law-abiding citizens who purchased their guns legally, who were legal gun owners, they became criminals overnight and retroactively. There are about 1,000 people who have been convicted of crimes, and I'm air quote crimes, the SAFE Act. I think they are victims of the SAFE Act. The SAFE Act has made no one safer. It's just made people's lives worse. So I guess to answer your question, have the gun laws made us safer? No. Have the gun laws ruined more lives? Yes. Have the gun laws cost us more money? Yes. And I guess the worst part of this whole thing is the vast majority of cops do not want to enforce SAFE Act laws. Because what SAFE Act does is say certain pieces of equipment are now deemed evil by the state. So now if you have this type of magazine or this type of firearm or this type of piece of equipment, this accessory, this is now evil, you go to jail. Cops don't want to enforce that. Cops want to go get bad guys. That's why they became cops. But now they're doing SAFE Act stuff. We just funded it. It's, I think, $3.5 billion, I think, is that right? I forgot, we just funded it. It was last week, 2 weeks ago, we just funded it. So we put more money towards it. So again, more money coming out of our budget. And to be clear, New York State's budget is $170 billion with a B. $170 billion. Florida has more people than New York State. It's about 90.
Some of you may know from my normal everyday life, I train leadership, sales, things of that sort. One time, I'm training a bunch of New York City employees. They're all people who are educated. They all have college degrees. They're all intelligent, right? So I'm talking to them, and one of them happens to work for the Department of Buildings. In New York City, you may or may not know this, you can do something called landmarking your property if you want to. Landmarking means that you say, I would like my property to be called a landmark, and now things can't be done to it unless the community agrees. It's almost like a community protection, right? You can do that because New York City has very old buildings, and some people want to do that. Okay, no worries, I got that. But here's something people don't know. Your property can be landmarked by the community against your will. They can just say, your property is now landmarked. That can actually happen, right? Does it happen here too?
Happens here.
There we go, happens here. Same thing, happens here. So I went to the person who works for the Department of Buildings, and I said, I'm confused. How is that okay? And it's just a question. I wasn't mad at him, just asked a question. This is during a break, we want to talk about these things. And he goes, no, Larry, you understand. This is the law we use, it's the same law we use if we condemn a building. And I said, okay, that makes sense to me, right? Because if a building in New York City falls down, literally thousands of people could die. I get that. Victim makes sense. Stopping condemning. Okay, I got that. I said, great. But when it comes to landmarking, where's the victim? That's what I asked him. He said, no, you don't understand, Larry. It's the same law that we use for when we condemn buildings. I said, yeah, I get that. I understand that's the law. I'm with you. What I'm saying is, when it comes to landmarking, where's the victim? He just repeated. Larry, it's the same law from condemning. Because in his mind, law equals righteous.
In my state, the odds are very high I'll be in the debates because they usually are. It's how New York State works. The culture is there. We're talking about debating already in July with a bunch of other candidates. We'll be a 5-way race in my state. So we're probably going to have debates. We'll get in. The reason why, because in the past, the two major parties, the old parties, have never thought we were in any way, shape, or form a threat, so they didn't care. Fine, put them in. They're a joke anyway. They don't care. And they've been right. That's been accurate. We have had no chance of ever affecting the outcome at all. Those days are changing now. So that may begin to change. When it comes to national, the most important thing, national, remember this, it's actually run. They say it's run by the Presidential Commission on Debates. It's not. It's actually run by Fox News and CNN and MSNBC and whoever's going to actually get the ad revenue for it. Ad revenue on debates is huge. What do they care about? Do they care if you got in 15% or whatever? They don't care about any of that stuff. They care, are you popular? Do people want to see you? If we have a boring candidate in 2020, we are not going to be at the debate stage, period. I don't care what else happens. If we have an exciting candidate, we will be on the debate stage because they're not going to give up that ad revenue. If the actual Presidential Debate Commission says, no, you went up beyond there, then CNN or MSNBC or Fox will have a town hall and it'll just be a debate. But if people want to see our candidate, they will be on TV. That's what it's about. It's about ad revenue. That's all they care about.
I say this because as we begin to move and talk about these things, you will find out that we are very often right on the cusp. We are on the vanguard. We are the tip of the spear. Just making a change in the mindsets of those around us. So when you're out there running all these candidates and you're talking to people and shaking hands and kissing babies, make sure you understand something. We are on the cusp. We are new. What we know and take for granted, they don't. What we know and take for granted, they don't get. We are a different way of governing. It's a different way of even thinking about government. We don't have to have every answer. They think we do. We have to understand something. The odds are the individual person has better answers. If they don't have better answers, it's still their answers.
Yes.
All right, last question. If you are elected governor of New York, what's something you would be pushing for?
I talk about this all the time. I have an office of the repeal and an office of the pardon. The office of repeal is going to be, how do I figure out what regulations specifically focused on small business should not be enforced? There are tens of thousands of licenses in New York. Some of them, as an example, like hair braiders and stuff like that, dog walkers. Why in the world is there a license? My general rule for license is this. This is my general rule. Would you ask your friend to do it? Would you ask your friend to walk your dog? Would you?
Sure.
Why would you have a license? Would you ask your friend, assuming you had long hair, to braid your hair? Would you ask your friend to do that?
Sure.
Sure. Why have a license? Would you ask your friend to remove your gallbladder?
I don't know.
Probably not. Get a license. I'm fine with that. That's my general rule, right? I probably wouldn't do that. Get a license. That's all I'm saying, right? That should be our general rule. And since I can't repeal as governor, I don't have that power, I can decide what are priorities for enforcement. That I can. And I will decide all of those. I'm not really going to have the resources, I'm doing air quotes again, to enforce. And once it goes a year or so without enforcing these laws and we realize people aren't dying, the world's not ending, we can finally repeal them. I will have given the assembly the air cover they need to repeal these things, and they will. That includes SAFE Act also. They also have to pardon something else. I'll begin pardoning victims of the SAFE Act within the first 90 days. I'll stop pardoning them. Get out of jail, go back home, go back to your families. Why are you even here? You should never have been arrested in the first place. When they realize the world's not ending there, we'll be fine. I'll also do it with people who were convicted of possession of marijuana. I'll begin pardoning within 90 days. Start getting out of jail. As long as there was no other violent crimes, they'll start getting pardoned also. They'll start getting out. Now, as they get out, one of them is going to do something stupid. Guaranteed. One of those guys is going to rob a liquor store or do something dumb. And when they do, the press is going to attack me on that. It's going to happen. I don't care because they're going to attack me anyway. When I become governor, I'm going to be the guy they all hate. Everyone's going to be after me. The Assembly's going to be after me. Senate's going to be after me. Press going to be after me. What do I care? They're going to be after me. Who cares? But what happens is when that happens and they say, but Larry, Governor Sharpe, this guy, you pardoned 100 people, and this guy robbed a liquor store. And I'm going to say, yeah. And 99 didn't. So put that guy in jail for robbing a liquor store, which is an actual crime, but not for having a plant in your pocket or having a certain type of firearm in your pocket. That should not be a crime. So you'd be pardoned for that, go to jail for the bad thing you did. Our country was built on the concept that it's better for a guilty man to go free than an innocent man to be put into prison. And I believe that. We've lost that in New York State. I believe that's true. We show that for the first year. The Assembly will see that. Again, I give them air cover. They can repeal. That's the issue. You have to have a governor who will lead and give the Assembly air cover. They're afraid for their jobs. That's what they're afraid of. If they think they'll get attacked in the press and they'll lose their jobs, they're not repealing anything. If I show them you can repeal, I'll take the heat, they'll repeal, they'll repeal, they'll repeal. I can't repeal, they can. I have to give them air cover so they will repeal.
Well, Larry Sharpe, thank you very much.
Of course.
For talking with me today.
Good.